Welcome back to Solo Board Gaming Presents. Look what we have today. I waited for 4 weeks after this game's release to receive it here in the UK. It's a nice big box from Hollandspiele, and as soon as I got it to the table, I realised that it wasn't that I'd been waiting for it for 4 weeks. I've been waiting for it for a decade. We're going to do a full rules breakdown and a playthrough of an entire scenario of the Grass Crown. Run the titles. Wow, so we better get started. Let's move the box and let's bring in the first of the 3 brilliant publications you get with this game. Now look, I'm only going to take 5 minutes to have a quick look at the components and what you get with the game, because I think a lot of people know this by now and we want to get into the playthrough. So if you bear with me for 5 minutes. This is the rule book, and you can see from the first pages, these pages are going through the components, obviously, and the counters in the game. And here we have horses and elephants, the command tokens, and the terrain. There's terrain with this game, but from the first double spread here, you can actually see how well set out this rule book is. And I will say right from the off, I had no problem whatsoever understanding the rules in this. It's still relatively simple. There are a couple of additional layers in this game compared to, for instance, its predecessor with it or on it. And that's mainly to cover the now differing formations and troop types and a couple of the battle tactics. But essentially, it's still a relatively simple game to learn, especially when you actually get the counters out onto the table. And I do advise you do that as quickly as possible. After one read through of this, I was able to get the counters onto the table and to start playing, rarely having to refer back to the rule book, except maybe, and we'll go through this a little bit during the playthrough, some of the rules for mounted troops, and that is elephants and cavalry, which were a little bit spread out and maybe could have been done a little bit better and using different terminology. But we got there. The rule book is absolutely fine. It's easy to read. Look at the spacing and look at the full colour. Now, for instance, it'll go through each of the phases of the game. Here we've got command phase, skirmish phase, but with tons of illustrations. And I mean, there's a lot of illustrations in here. Look at these full colour illustrations, rally phase, movement phase, and again, we've got plenty of illustrations. So really easy to understand. And I wish more rule books could be put together like this. And it's funny, by the way. She has a lot of her humour in here, does Amabel, and it makes the whole thing a joy to read. Look, we go on again, combat phase, again, plenty of illustrations, elimination and rout, bonus combat phase, special rules. Oh yeah, there's some special rules with this, and you'll be informed at the beginning of each scenario setup which of the special rules are used in a particular battle. And those special rules will be the veteran rule or the triplex acquiesce rules. I don't know how to pronounce that. I just said acquiesce. Could be triplex ACs, and I think I'll use that actually. So the veteran rule, triplex ACs rule, the Marion rule, the combined arms rule, and so on. Anti-elephant wagons. Now, come on. Where have you seen that before? I certainly don't know. They're in the game. And then we've got an example of play. Playing through the first scenario, Heraclea. A great example of play, turn by turn for the first couple of turns. I think 4 or 5 turns, is it? Showing all the moves. And you could play through that and then continue playing at the end where it finishes. So we have turn 5. Oh, it went on a bit longer than I thought. Turn 7, turn 8, and so on. And then on the back, we have a brilliant player's aid, which honestly is more or less all you need to play the game once you've read through those rules. It's absolutely excellent. And in fact, there's another example of that on the back of another of the publications here, like so. So you actually get 2 copies of the player aids. And what is this next one? Let's have a look. Let's move that one out of the way. This book is the Battle Book. And look, we have 10 battles from Heraclea, number 1, through Zama, Pharsalus, to Munda. And this takes us from the days of Pyrrhus, with Heraclea, Asculum. And you can see how it easily shows you exactly where to set up, how to set up your pieces, how to set up your armies on the field, how many in each of the formations, which of the special rules we will be implementing, and what the terms of victory are, the victory points required, and that kind of thing. We'll go into that in more detail. Trebia, Zama, Ceuta, Pharsalus, and into Caesar, where we've got Munda, the Roman civil wars. So a fantastic battle book there of all 10 of those battles. The final book, and there's a lot being said about this, I love this book. I've now read the whole book. I read about half of the book before I actually started playing. And I did that quite deliberately because within this book, there's a lot of design and notes. You can see why Amabel developed some of the rules like she has, because the amount of military history in this book is phenomenal. Yes, it's a great title, look, a brief and digressive, but mostly accurate military history of the Roman Republic with jokes. The only game designer that can be trusted with footnotes. And there's a ton of footnotes in here. And you can take this bit here with illustrations by John Leach because he's dead and can't actually complain about it. That is how this thing goes. And her sense of humour absolutely shines through this book. However, I don't want to make too much of that because although it was a joy to read, just like the rule book is, there's a ton of really, I tell you, I was really surprised. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but it's a scholarly work. There's a ton of Republican Roman military history in here, a great understanding, and I learned tons from this. I'll treasure this little book. So we go, from the Pyrrhic Wars, and we do understand how many of the rules came about, many of the tactics supported or modelled in the game, the Macedonian Wars, up to the civil wars that we've just mentioned, of Caesar and Pompey. A great, great book. Fantastic addition to the box. And we've zoomed in a little bit because we want to see how well the counters are designed, how beautiful these counters now look. First of all, you've got the popping colour, the purples, the blues, the orange, the reds, the greens, and so on. So that when they're grouped together and they're performing as a wing, we can see just what units need to be working cohesively with others. And look how much they pop and how clear they are against this green background. But more about that very, very shortly in just a minute. We have horses, so we have cavalry. And you see the diamonds on them, some have none, some have one, some have two. And again, that's showing the different classes of cavalry, if you like, the different cavalry types. The heavier cavalry with more impact, having 2 diamonds. And the elephants, their charge and their potential rampage is modelled brilliantly in this game, and I hope that we'll be able to show that. And the different infantry types, starting with the phalanx at the top here, and look at the different types of phalanx illustration. There's this one here which shows triarii, and here we have a Hellenic or Macedonian type phalanx here at the top. And then the light infantry, see they all have an L in the top left, as these have a P in the top left. So these are the light infantry, and we have different types again. These more Celtic types, and the light infantry here, you can see how different the illustration is to the heavy infantry here at the bottom. The difference in their shields, the amount of armour, which these light infantry having the traditional just central small metal plate fastened to their chests, and these here being in mail. And over on the right hand side, top right hand side of each of the counters, you'll see the class of infantry, A, B, C, and so on. That refers to the amount of experience they might have, or the amount of training, or the type of training that they've received. That will also have an impact on the battlefield. And that's not all, because when a unit is hit, when it takes a hit, we'll turn it over, and there you go. The exhausted side has a white stripe on it. Now that exhausted side, that cannot move. Unless it rallies, it cannot move and cannot combat. If it's hit again, then of course it will be eliminated. Or you might turn one over like so, and there's 2 white stripes, which means that it's brittle. So that brittle unit now has to be eliminated immediately. And what's more, you don't know exactly where those brittle units are within your wings. Brilliant mechanics going on here. We have terrain tiles, these rectangular tiles like so, which for instance could be joined together to form a river, the basis of a river. On the other side, what do we have? There we go, we have a crest line on the other side of this one. So that's a hill crest. And put together, let's try and find, there you go. You can form a long hill, or the crest line of a hill, a change in elevation. Or we have broken ground, like so on. We can show broken ground on the terrain as well. It has to be said that the terrain is only used where that particular terrain was particularly relevant to the battle or the way that battle was actually fought. Most battles, whether we like it or not, in this era, was fought on a great plain, on level ground. Most battles, we can all point to exceptions, absolutely, but because of the way the armies fought, big blocks of soldiers, shoulder to shoulder, the generals needed a wide plain on which to fight, and it was those wide plains that were fought over in general. But where terrain is an important feature, then it can be modelled in the game. And there's about 5 of the 10 scenarios where terrain is actually used. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the map. It's no secret to anyone that's taken a peek at my Twitter account, or indeed my text review on BGG, that I absolutely love this map. Is it a map? We could talk about that ad infinitum. It is, in the sense that it represents a clear, wide plain upon which the armies fight, and on which we can also add additional terrain. So yes, in that case, it's a map. Is it a board? You could call it a board, I suppose. Like many games I played on a board. You could call it just a play mat. To me, I like to think of it as an arena. I thought of that very, very quickly. As soon as I saw it and as soon as I saw the bright counters upon it, I thought, an arena, that's what it reminds me of. And certainly when I set up my first game, one side, edge one here, against another, edge two over there, the whole thing was shouting to me that it was an arena, because there was nothing in the way, there was nothing to distract me. I could just concentrate entirely on my formation and how this formation is going to beat that formation, because that's what we have to do, and it focuses our mind, it concentrates our thoughts, and it looks absolutely beautiful when it's set up. The designer of the map or the arena is Mark Mahaffey. I hope I pronounced that correct. I'm a big fan because one of Mark Mahaffey's probably best productions is the map he produced for Operation Dauntless, which is one of my all-time faves. It's a photorealistic map of the Normandy area just west of Caen for the combat that took place there in 1944. Mark's portfolio of the sheer amount of maps he's produced over time, mainly war games, is there to see in all its glory on the internet. So this map wasn't produced by accident. This map wasn't produced because somebody had run out of ideas. This was fulfilling a brief. It's beautifully designed. It's a gorgeous colour. The typography and the colour palette around the edges all contribute to us being able to focus in on a battle, one mind against another mind, with very little distraction. You definitely feel that there's nowhere to hide and the battle has to be fought and the battle has to be won. I love this map. I think it's going to become iconic. And so now to fight the Battle of Heraclea. So we turn to our battle book. Heraclea will be the first scenario, and lo and behold, it shows us exactly how to set up our forces. It shows us that in this wing here we need 10 purple phalanx and one hero. That white star there, that shows us that one hero counter needs to go in that phalanx. Another phalanx, this time blue, 10 blue in this phalanx, and one hero. 8 elephants, 4 cavalry on each wing. And now we turn to the Romans. We have the first line made up of the Hastati, 10 counters of the pink Hastati, followed by a second line, 10 counters of the red Principes. Again, one hero counter is required in that line there. And the third line, the Triarii, 8 only of the orange Triarii counters, and again with one hero counter in that line there. Notice there's no hero counters in the front line of Hastati. Plus we need some terrain, and we need to establish a river across the entire width of the board like so. And of course the white horses of the Romans, 6 on this side and 6 on that side, anywhere within that footprint. And the same here with these horses at the top, anywhere within that footprint. And finally, it shows us here in blue and down here in red various factors, like what our skirmish rating is. skirmish rating of 3, and down here, skirmish rating of 3, that the Romans start with the first move and have the initiative counter and have the Fortuna dice. We will discuss that later as we come across it in the game. Pompey needs to get 25 points. Once he has reached 25 points, if at any time he has plus 5 points more than Rome, he will win the game. Or anyway, when he reaches 35 victory points. And down here, it's the Romans can win the game if they reach 15 victory points and then have 5 more points than Pompey, or at any rate when they reach 20 victory points. And we've got a couple of things here. Reserves, for instance, this is a special rule just for this scenario. The first time Pyrrhus issues a command to their elephantry, these guys here at the back, Lavinius scores 5 victory points. So Pyrrhus can use his elephants, but the first time he gives a command to the elephants, then the Romans are automatically going to achieve 5 victory points. Without further ado, let's set up the Battle of Heraclea, 280 BCE. And here we are. All is revealed, and the two armies are facing each other across this field or across this arena, ready to do battle. And doesn't that look absolutely magnificent? For me, it really does feel like the two armies are facing each other, ready to do battle. And that's exactly what this field of battle, the design of this game, does for us. And this battle will be asymmetrical. Here, on this side, on edge number 2, we have the army of Pyrrhus. So let's see what we've got. We've got 2 phalanxes. There's a purple phalanx and a blue phalanx. These are set up next to each other. So there's just this wing and that wing. Each is a separate wing, and you can see now how the colours make that work. This will move and fight as a separate wing. This will move and fight as a separate wing. Behind, in reserve, they have their elephants that are set up here in the back. But remember, during the setup, it told us that the first time that Pyrrhus gives any kind of order to those elephants, then this side, Lavinius, for Rome, will gain 8 victory points. So Pyrrhus might want to be very careful if and when he chooses to use those elephants, maybe as a coup de grace. On the wings, he has, as part of the mounted wing, you see they're all the same colour, gold. As part of the mounted wing, he has his horse of varying capabilities. We have some without diamonds at all, like so. We have some with a diamond, single diamonds, and we also have a double diamond counter here. Heavier horse, more capable. Facing them across the field, staring them down, we have the Roman Republican army under the command of Lavinus. And they are set out using the triplex aces rule in these maniples, as you can see here. First of all, we have the Hastati. These are the light troops in front of the army that are lightly armed. They will have some kind of shields normally. They will have spears or pila, but they are light troops. How will they fare against the phalanx? Here in the second row, we have the Principes. These are more capable troops. These are the guys in red. They're better armed and better armoured and have more experience. And finally, third, we have the phalanx type troops, but still only fight as a thin line. These are the veterans, the more experienced troops. If we, playing as the Roman Republican army, feel that we have to eventually resort to these third line of troops, we may have already lost the battle. On the wings, we have cavalry slightly outnumbering the cavalry of Pyrrhus, but then we don't have the elephants. Now, between line 1 and line 2, we have some terrain. We have this river, which is fordable across all of its length, but it will slow us down if we decide that our tactic is to advance to contact. Because as these lines cross that river, it will cost them more movement points. We'll come to that when we actually start the game. Now, each side also has their command markers, like so. And let's discuss those. And here's the command markers for the Roman army here. But they're exactly the same. We'll discuss this one, the Aquila marker, in a moment. Now, every turn, the turn commences with a command phase. And this is where we can issue commands to one and one only of our wings. For the Roman army, by the way, each of these lines is a separate wing, and only one of them can be active at any one time. So, for instance, Pyrrhus, when he comes to issue orders, he has to decide which wing he wants to issue orders to. And he can issue 2 orders, that's all, 2 orders to that wing. And here are his order tokens. He'll place those by the wing that he wishes to activate, to give orders to, and it will show us all, so it's clear, what orders he intends to give to that particular wing. So, for instance, he can give orders to this wing, the blue one, but then not to anyone else, at least in most circumstances, but we will cover that. So, what orders can he give to this wing, for instance? I'll put the orders phase, the game phases up here right now. So you can see that the command phase is the first phase of the series in each turn. So he can give a skirmish order and move. They can skirmish and move. Now, first of all, they would skirmish because that comes first in the phases, as you can see here. And then a movement order. Let's have a look at the other side. There you go. That's rally. He could issue a rally command to this wing, and then a movement order, or a rally command, and then combat. Combat would be adjacent. But notice, he can't give a rally and skirmish, or he can't give a combat and move, or a move and combat, because that combination doesn't go together because they're on the reverse side of the counters. So there you go. A fairly typical order might be skirmish and move to this blue wing here, or the purple wing. Okay, so he's saying skirmish and then move to the purple wing. But each side also has the Aquila token, this Roman Republican eagle here. So instead of issuing that kind of command, he can instead issue Aquila plus skirmish. That allows this wing, or that wing, but it allows this wing to skirmish twice. Or Aquila plus rally. It enables a dice roll modifier, favourable dice roll modifier, when rallying. So it's making that rally command more powerful. Or Aquila and move. We can move twice, making it more powerful. Or Aquila and what else do we have? Combat. And again, it allows us favourable minus die roll modifiers to our combat dice. There's one more thing that the Aquila can be used for. Now, I said For instance, this blue wing could be commanded to skirmish and then move. Or I could replace one of them with a keeler and a keeler move so that this wing can now move twice. Or I could say a keeler move and now all of the foot units can make that one move. So the Aquila command can either make one command more powerful, or it can issue that one command to the entire foot army units. So that's how the Aquila is used. Similar to the Roman side as well, but because of the triplex ACs rule, we see these three sets of maniples here that's in play. There's a slightly different use of the Aquila. Now, yes, Aquila and move, and that first line there could move twice. Or Aquila and combat. Or Aquila and skirmish to this one wing. Don't forget, this is a wing, this is a wing, and this is a wing. Or, because of the triplex ACs rule, if we use Aquila to issue a command to the entire army of foot units, the only way we can do that is to issue Aquila move. And the difference is with the triplex ACs move, that will create a line change where the line in front will fall back and disappear off the field, and the second line will move up and take their place. Now that's dramatic, and we hope to see that during this battle. So that's it. We have our command tiles for each side ready to go. You'll notice that our rally limit markers are at 4, which means that each of us could rally a maximum of 4 units per turn. Rally limit here is at 4 to rally a maximum of 4 units per turn, if we chose the rally command, that is. And any time the rally limit is reduced down to 0, that side loses the game instantly that happens. And we'll discuss how that can happen during the game. So, here we are. We're set up and ready to play. The phalanxes and elephants of Pompey are facing the asymmetrical army of Lavinus on the plain before Heraclea. Let's see how this turns out. Who's going to win this game? Because we are going to fight it to the end. And what's our first move going to be? Which army is going to be the first to move? Thank you for watching. I've really enjoyed doing this, but I'm more excited and looking forward to the next video where we start our playthrough, where we commence this battle to the finish. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you possibly can. See you again very soon. Thank you.